Ender's Game is held in extraordinarily high esteem by sci-fi circles and is regarded as one of its best specimens. But is it really? In my opinion, it just missed the mark. This week, I'll be reviewing Ender's Game, the book, not the movie. Well, you could say that I'm reviewing the movie as well, because the movie is extraordinarily faithful to Ender's Game, only changing very minute things. Because of that, it has the exact same problem that shoved it out of my esteemed position of legendary. For me, it was the plot. But I'll get into that after I rate its best aspect. Like, strategically smash that subscribe button and watch as I rate characters, plot, and world building as well as age rating at the end. So, on with the review. Characters, 10 out of 10. I mean, it is called Ender's Game. Ender, or his born name, Andrew, is the highlight of an extraordinary cast of extraordinary characters. Orson Scott Card perfectly demonstrated what I have been saying in this channel for the past, 90 days. Please, have competent protagonists. They are so much more interesting and less bland than a main character who is led by his nose by everybody. People might think, oh, we mustn't do that, or it might be difficult to make him an underdog. Well, I shall just say the truth. Please, use your creative mind. I love protagonists with powerful strengths and debilitating weaknesses, who have a constant battle in themselves between the two. This generates respect, which, in my opinion, is better than likability. Peter and Valentine are perfect examples of personifying the themes in a story. This is how I create characters in my stories. I make them represent the different ways of handling the thematic question. The thematic question in Ender's Game, ultimately, is the dangers of intelligence. Peter represents the psychopathic, manipulative side, while Valentine represents the more compassionate but less effective side. So, Ender has to choose. Should he become the best of the best, sacrificing his humanity for the sake of Earth? But should he be compassionate but less effective at the same time? The fantasy game is what forced him to confront this question. This is where Ender's Game shines. With that over, the supporting cast of characters like Bernard, Petra, and the rest did their part in stressing the theme. In the end, that is what supporting characters should be. Now with the good stuff out of the way, it's time to get to the bad stuff. Plot, 5 out of 10. I mean, it was pretty solid until that darn plot twist. The plot twist was shocking, it made sense, as well as it forced the themes to come to a head. But I would reply with, Orson Scott Card built an expectation that there would be more, that this was just the beginning of the war against the buggers, that Ender would go and actively participate in the fight. In the end though, it left me disappointed. There will be no Admiral training. This was just the end. Just, Mr. Card, you really should have split Ender's Game into 2 books. The first would have been the training, the second would have been finishing the Admiral training and fighting the buggers. Hell, it might have even been a trilogy. We had that expectation, and he built that expectation, but he threw that out the window in favor of a shock. I mean, he handled it well. It served the story by settling the question, creating catharsis. But when I put down the book, I found myself saying, meh, I was expecting more. This is why it failed to reach legendary status in my eyes, despite it winning 2 of the most prestigious sci-fi awards ever. But it is what it is. World building, 7 out of 10. The world was pretty solid. I especially liked the influence of the bugger invasion on the language, creating many new idioms. The rest of the world had some interesting politics happening, with Peter rising to the top with Valentine's help. This shows a disturbing picture of how easy it is for psychopaths to become important political figures. What drove the rating down though was how distant it felt from Ender's point of view, as all of our attention was on his commanding presence. The fantasy game though, I would include more as a character rather than part of the world building. Extraordinarily strange how alive it feels. But now, on to overall, 7 out of 10. Technically 7.5, but I always round down when it comes to ratings. Ender's Game is an excellent read, making for a perfect study on how characters should be made. The 3 siblings had 4D personalities, making them some of the best characters of all time. But that ending left a bitter taste in my mouth, ruining most of the experience. Despite that, I would encourage you to read it, as it has shaped sci-fi into a more modern version. So, read on. Age rating, 13+. This depends a lot on how much violence the child can handle. The language is pretty strong, but nowadays school children face much worse. The bullying scenes are quite brutal, raising significant questions about how far you must go in self-defense. If you are a parent, you should have conversations about this with your child on how to handle bullies well. But, on average, a teenager should be able to handle this. With that, it will be a very maturing book to read, giving your child some very good philosophical questions to ponder. This would increase their thoughtfulness and intelligence. Now, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. And with that, until the next video, Veronwë out.